My first take is a more serious one. I had a take about the Dolphins and Tua from that game, and then we got the news today about Tua, and so it's not like the most fun thing to talk about, but it's just it needs to be talked about. That Tua Tagovailoa needs the right people looking out for him over the next week, 2 weeks, month, and that includes himself, which he started today with self-reporting the concussion symptoms, which I think is a huge thing, a huge story, because anyone you talk to, anything you read about, that's the thing that can really shift the concussion situation, whatever you want to call it, is players being honest, players looking out for each other, coaches looking out for players, those things.
Especially because, and this is so important to how we talk about this concussion for Tua Tagovailoa. The first one, we all saw him get slammed into the turf. Yes. We all saw him stumble and get up, and then we saw him continue to play the rest of the game. And for the week, right, they played Sunday into Thursday. They played Thursday night against the Bengals. We said, what was this? This is unbelievable. Did you see him get? This is unbelievable. This is incredible. This is horrible. And then he gets slammed to the turf again against the Bengals, has the fencing response. And we are all affronted. We're all aghast. Your stomach turns over. Yeah. I saw this happen to this player on Sunday. I'm seeing it happen to him again on Thursday. How is the protocol failing? How is this not captured? How did nobody point this out and call this out? And then there was this week, these 2 weeks of heightened visibility, and everybody's wondering, all right, this player got hit, that player got hit. Is he getting pulled? What's the red hat doing on the sideline? And then we get a little further away from that, and our attention diverts somewhere else. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. However, Tua's third concussion, his throws the ball, he gets slammed to the ground, his head whiplashes onto the ground. There's no replay of the sack where we see it all happen. There's no discussion about the broadcast. We didn't notice. And it was in the first half, and they played the entire second half of the game.
And the spotters didn't notice, by the way, more importantly.
Which serves as a reminder. It's so impactful. It is important that we continue to bring as much of a spotlight onto the NFL's concussion protocol. What steps are you taking? How are you identifying? How are you pulling players out of the game? What are you doing when you pull them out of the game? Is this working? What changes aren't working? Let's talk about them. But it must be reminded, this is the exact player who started the conversation, getting a concussion the exact same way. Tua, like, whenever he goes to the ground, he goes down really hard. The exact same way. And you can still miss it. There's no player and no context that has more concussion visibility than Tua Tagovailoa taking hits in the pocket, and you can still miss it. We should, we must bring as much of a spotlight to that process as we can, as we have, and as we'll continue to do. But it will be insufficient if players are not reporting symptoms. And so the fact that Tua brings that in the middle of a playoff push is hugely important to continuing to round out the concussion protocol.
It's great news. He should be. It's not great news. I mean, he's suffering from a concussion, but you know what I mean. He should be absolutely commended for that. Like you said, I mean, this is a huge story in the NFL this year. Tua has suffered two established concussions, very likely, in my opinion, a third concussion that Ben was just talking about. He takes the hit against Buffalo. The Dolphins say it's a back injury. He comes back, he plays the game. Then, as Ben said, on Thursday, he suffers the one that we all saw against the Bengals. And now it's week 16. That's two definite, maybe three in reality, concussions over a 14-week period. This man is 24 years old, and per Chris Nowinski of the Concussion Legacy Foundation, he said to his knowledge, no NFL player had been diagnosed with 3 concussions in a season previously. And so the first one, that first incident, the NFL changed their protocols after that to what seemed like a very common sense rule that if a player is showing lack of balance, lack of stability, he has to sit out. Listen, there's no perfect answer with this stuff. If it was very easy to diagnose and there was a test and you knew, okay. And so I don't want to kind of get on my high horse about this. At the same time, it's such an important issue. And again, 24 years old to be suffering from this, like, he's got to continue to go down the path he went down today. The league, the NFL, the Dolphins, everybody is going to have eyes on this situation. I'm not going to say, hey, he shouldn't play till X date, because I don't know. I'm not an expert in this field, so I don't like making those types of statements. But I do think there is sort of this glimmer of positivity with some of the stuff we've seen over like the last month. And that's one, Tua self-reporting here. We saw the play where Devontae Parker suffers the concussion, and Nelson Aguilar's response, which I don't think we talked about on the podcast, but that he should be commended for, that he's waving to the sideline, taking a knee, being like, my teammate is not right here. Stop the game and get him off the field. We saw that. We saw Kyle Shanahan had a quote a couple weeks ago. Charvarius Ward passes the concussion protocol, doesn't go back in the game. They asked Shanahan about it. He said he talked to him. He didn't feel right about Ward going back into the game. And it's really tricky because just because you pass the concussion protocol doesn't mean you're good. I mean, we've seen multiple players this year pass the protocol, come back in the game, and then Monday they get diagnosed with symptoms. And so it's just got to be everybody looking out for each other. I know that's sort of a naive thought with the NFL for sure, but I like what I said. I like that. I'm encouraged that Tua did what he did today. I'm encouraged by what Mike McDaniel said, even though I can't say their organization has thoroughly handled the concussion issue great this year. But this is something we're just going to have our eyes on the rest of the season and into the offseason.
Yeah. Individuals, coaches, players, choosing concussion safety over competitiveness is that's the tagline, right? That's the one sentence.
That didn't happen 10, years, 5 years ago, whatever.
About like 10 years ago. It didn't happen 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like, you got your bell rung, find a way to get back in the game. If you got your bell rung, it means you're making a tackle, catching a pass, running the football. It means you're doing something we need you to keep doing. Get back in the game, right? You clear the protocol, okay, you're good. The fact that we can have people not clear the protocol and still say, all right, we're not going to send you back in because we're just not going to mess around with this. The fact that we can have a player who doesn't get flagged by the protocol but feels concussion symptoms that they've had previously, these, your second concussion is more dangerous than your first. Your third is more dangerous than your second, right? This is a compounding effect to my understanding of the science, So the fact that we can have a player who's experienced concussion protocols, and concussion symptoms, say, I'm feeling this. I'm the quarterback of a team that's trying to make the playoffs, but I got to go through this protocol. That's hugely important. Like that, when it comes to like, how is this going to work? How is a heightened awareness of, fear of, treatment of concussions going to manifest itself in the NFL? It's going to be when players, coaches, league, fans all say, all right, well, concussions are more important than competitiveness. We would rather see a player safe from head injuries than see the player contribute to winning the game. Week 1, week 18, regular season, postseason. This is the thing that matters. And so when you start to see coaches make these decisions, players make these decisions, and this message being both implicitly and explicitly said, that we value the health of a player's head over our ability to compete. That's where okay, like we're making the stride into the area we need to make. Not done, but that's the stride that you need to make.